Hello everybody, it is Dylan from Anime, and welcome to my first ever video on this channel. It will be my review of Boku no Hero Academia, or My Hero Academia, Episode 20, or Season 2, Episode 7. So, just before I begin, I have not read the manga of My Hero Academia. I know the manga is much more farther along than the anime story is, and I know the stories are pretty much identical. So, if you do want to talk to me about the manga, about things that might happen, I personally really don't mind spoilers. Just tab down, like comment spoilers ahead, and then tab a little bit so that you have to click read more, and I will talk to you guys down below. Try to avoid like massive spoilers, but if you want to talk to me about something that is going to happen a little bit down the road, I'm completely fine with that. But just out of respect for people that are not, just be mindful of that. So that's why I like to, when people comment spoilers, and then tab a little bit. But I cannot wait to talk to you guys about this episode. I cannot wait to talk to you guys about My Hero Academia along with some other shows going forward on this channel. My first video, it's a exciting step for me. So let me stop boring you. Let me begin. So episode 20. Episode 20 begins. We got a little bit of a glimpse of the match between Midoriya and Shinso, and we knew as soon as the match begun, we knew something was a little off with Shinso, and I figured his quirk had to have something to do with brainwashing. It had to have something to do with mind control, and it turns out that it is exactly brainwashing, which I think everyone probably could have guessed, because none of his teammates remembered in the cavalry round, his three teammates remembered anything that happened. They all looked shocked as heck when they came in third place, and there was just something weird about this guy. He just seemed off. He seemed like a creep, honestly, and brainwashing kind of fits his style. But there's something that the episode and that My Hero Academia has done so well, and that is that you can't really judge someone based off appearance, and they kind of trick you. Like, for instance, Eraserhead. When we were first introduced to him, I thought this guy was going to maybe become evil, he was going to turn, and that's a flaw that I have. It's a flaw in human nature that we judge people based on how they look, how they come across the eye. And with My Hero Academia, it's done such a great job at creating these great characters that want to be heroes, but maybe have villainous quirks. Like brainwashing, for instance, is a villainous quirk. So the way it works is, once Midoriya says something, or once anyone says something, he's able to basically control them. So he takes control of Deku right off the bat, and he says, walk out of bounds for me, I'm gonna win. And Midoriya turns around and starts walking out of bounds, and everyone is kind of stunned. The guy with the animal tail, I forget his name, there's a lot of names, so I know most of the main ones, but there's some that I still need work on remembering. He warned Deku, he warned Midoriya about the power that, once you say something, you're done. You're not going to remember anything unless you get shocked. And unless you get hit, basically. And of course, in a one-on-one match like this, it's pretty much you think it's virtually impossible to get hit, to get that shock, to get out of this mind control. We learn a little bit in the middle of this episode that it's not, that Midoriya is able to snap out of it. But Eraserhead says something very interesting, and he's like, this is why the practical exam was just such BS, because the practical exam measures how many enemies you can defeat in once. It tests your physical strength, but it doesn't test someone's mental abilities. So if you have a quirk that's more mental, that's just more mental over physical, you're going to do horrible in the practical exam, and you're not going to get in to the university, at least to the hero course. And that's exactly what happens. Shinso has an extremely good quirk, and in the fact that he can just brainwash anyone he wants to as long as they talk to him. And so we get a good flashback with him in middle school. By the way, this is like 3 years ago. He looks the same as he does right now. He has not aged a bit. And you have his classmates around him talking about how amazing his quirk is and how it's so cool. And they're like, oh yeah, but just don't brainwash me, man. I obviously you wouldn't want to be brainwashed by anyone. And you see about like 80, that's only like 3 classmates talking to him. You see about 80% of the class all kind of staring at him, really creeped out, because you'd be creeped out. You'd be skeptical if someone told me, if I was in this world and everyone, or most people had quirks, and I was told, yeah, that kid, he is a quirk. He can just brainwash you. If you talk to him, you're not going to remember anything. Like, that's creepy. I wouldn't talk to him, and I'd look at him kind of creepily, and he just looks a bit like a creep, but at the same time, he wants to become a hero, and he wants to become a hero for almost the same reason that Midoriya does. Very similar motivations, and that kind of hits home for Deku, but Deku is able to snap himself out of the brainwashing by, it really was never explained too extreme. He sees these weird, creepy faces down the tunnel, and it has to do with the one-for-all power that was given to him by All Might and was passed down, as All Might said, by all these people. ball, and he's able to control it through two of his fingers. He virtually breaks his two middle fingers to snap out of it, which extremely painful, yes, but that's how he was able to snap out of it. So he was able to snap out of it thanks to the help of the people, I guess, that used to control One For All. It's not really touched on, and he goes to All Might later, and his interaction scenes with All Might are always really funny, and All Might really has no idea why it happened either. He does make a comment to the nurse and says, "I was in that vision," or someone that had my eyes was in that vision, or that's what the nurse says to him, and he's like, yeah, that's a good sign. So maybe he knows more than he's letting on. Maybe he knows, maybe that's a symbol that he's about to pass away. I mean, again, I don't know where the manga is, but I just have a feeling that All Might is going to die at some point during the show, maybe in the near future, maybe when the villains attack again. He had that scare when Nobu came and the villains came last time, and I cannot wait until the villains come back because they were awesome. They were one of the best parts of Season 1. But anyway, Midoriya snaps out of it. You know, and you have Shinso who's yelling things at him, trying to get him to talk. Midoriya refuses to talk. He gets him out of bounds, and he wins the round. So Midoriya wins. You have a great scene where Shinso is walking off, and it looks like he might be in tears. You can't really tell because they kind of show the back of him, but he's obviously upset about what happened. And it's got to be tough because you want to be a hero, but you're born with kind of a villainous quirk that makes everyone not really want to talk to you, and people don't really take you at your word. That's tough. It's very tough. And he's not strong at all. I mean, they even say that Midoriya, I guess he's very strong because of that crazy training he went through right before the testing. But Midoriya, you don't really think of brute strength unless he's using his quirk, and he's able to overpower Shinso. So really, Shinso's only pro here is that he has this ability to control minds. Everyone gives him a standing ovation as he leaves. They talk about how cool that was, and you even see the professional heroes talking about how great of a quirk that is and how they wish they had that quirk. So that was a really cool moment for him, and he's still very, hell-bent on becoming the greatest hero. That's what he says to Deku, and then he leaves, and that was a really cool moment. That was a very heartfelt moment, but Midoriya does move on. And we do see one last battle before this episode ends, and it is Todoroki. And before that battle starts, you see him with his father, and it's a great scene he has with his father. His father, by the way, who is considered to be the number 2 hero in the world, and only down to All Might. And so his father's motivation comes from his dad wants to be the greatest hero. He hates sharing that spotlight with All Might. And so what he did, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure what it was implied last episode is that he raped Todoroki's mother, or he forced Todoroki's mother because she had an ice quirk, he had a fire quirk, to create an offspring, which turned out to be Todoroki. And I'm pretty sure, and he treated Todoroki's mom horribly. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, and that's why he has such disdain towards his father. And his father, I mean, he's a hero, but he seems to be a horrible human being just based off that and just based off the interaction that they had in this episode and they've had in the previous episodes. At least the little bit amount of we know of him. And Todoroki walks past him, and they have this great scene. He refuses to use his fire side. He only uses his ice side. And that's got to be tough because he's not using 100% of his power. He's really only using 50% of his power if you figure it's an even 50-50 split. And what's even crazier about that is Todoroki, I consider him to be one of the strongest characters in the show. And he's only using maybe half of his power, which is, it blows my mind. And his father's there, and he's like, you have to stop being so stubborn. I created you so that you could surpass All Might. You have to, start using your fire side. And it's a great scene because all you see of Todoroki is his mouth. And you can see the anger as he's walking past his dad in the tunnel as he's about to go into his match. And he calls his dad a bastard and that he will never use that side of him. He'll win and he'll get by using only his mom's side. Really, I guess the only parent that actually cared about him. And so he goes out, and he's versing some generic guy, and I'm like, all right, he's going to win, piece of cake, and it'll be Todoroki and Midoriya in the second round. And after this, I think we have 6 more matches before the second round matches begin. And they start the match, and the guy immediately gets a heads up on him. This was the guy that was on Kachin's team during the cavalry round, and Kachin was flying all over the place, and he was able to catch him and prevent him from hitting the ground. So he's got that kind of toilet paper quirk where he's able to kind of wrap people and catch them and stuff. So he immediately wraps Todoroki and tries to throw him off to the side, throw him out of bounds. And it's an amazing scene because they just zoom in on Todoroki's face, and he just goes, sorry. And you see the ice attack come out, and he attacks, and literally maybe the strongest attack by far we have ever seen launched from Todoroki, from maybe anyone in the academy, and everyone watching is like in shock. And they show what he just did, and literally this ice attack goes over the roof. It goes over the roof of the stadium. And the amount of ice and fury and anger that he had in this attack was insane. And he immediately, I think, feels bad about it. The guy immediately surrenders because he's immobilized. And he walks over to him and he kind of just apologizes as he's starting to melt the ice away with his fireside. And obviously, he does this to make a statement to his dad that he does not need his dad's strength, that he is fine using only the quirk that he inherited from his mother, and he will not, succumb to what his dad wants him to become, which is, a hero better than All Might, which I think he wants to be a hero better than All Might as well. Of course, anyone wants to be the greatest hero they can be, but there's obviously deep-rooted issues here between Todoroki and his father, and it was beautifully demonstrated in this episode. He melts the guy away, and Midoriya has a line where he says, I don't know, for some reason, Todoroki just looked sad, and the episode ends, and that is a great way to build up not only their fight, but just just Todoroki. He's one of my favorite characters in the show. I feel like there is so much depth with his character, and there's so much internal struggle, and he's got all this amazing potential, even only using the ice side. And you imagine that it almost came back to haunt him in the cavalry round, and you imagine it will come back to haunt him at some point. I don't know how Midoriya, unless he controls All for One, or One for All, is going to be able to defeat him in the second round. But at the same time, I feel like the final has to be Midoriya versus Kacchan. So, I don't really know, but it was a really good episode. It was the beginning, the fights were really not competitive. I would have liked a more competitive fight, but I'd imagine the competitive fights are going to be later down the road. We have some interesting matchups in the next episode. Ida is versing that pink-haired girl. That should be a fun one. I don't know if we'll see this in the next episode, but Uraraka, who's one of my favorite characters in My Hero Academia, is versing Kacchan, and that is a matchup I am extremely nervous about. I feel like she is going to get slaughtered in that match, but if she pulls out a win, I will be thrilled. I don't think she will, because I still think Midoriya versus Kacchan will be the final, but I guess we will see. So, a really interesting episode. The Season 2 has been great. If you have not seen it yet, definitely check it out. Please leave all your thoughts down below. I hope you enjoyed my first ever video on Dylan from Anime, and my first ever Boku no Hero Academia review. I will talk to you guys in the comments below. Please feel free to subscribe and like the video, share it with your friends, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your weekend.